Oh, you're ready. Looks like the first one.
Okay, council, good evening, council, staff and members of the press, and for those of you that are joining with us virtually. It's Wednesday, June the 12th, 2024. I would ask those that are joining us in person, I would ask you to ensure your communication devices are either shut off or click on button. I would remind everyone that this meeting is being broadcast and recorded, and the recordings are made available on the town's YouTube website. We acknowledge that this land on which we are gathered today is part of the ancestral land of the Chippewa, Ottawa, and Potawatomi peoples, referred to collectively as the Anishinaabe. It's through the connection of the Anishinaabe with the spirit of the land, water, and air that we recognize their unique cultures, traditions, and values. Together as treaty people, we have a shared responsibility to act with respect for the environment that sustains all life, protecting the future for those generations to come. Council, I would ask you at the appropriate moment to declare, if you have a declaration of pecuniary interest, to do so at that appropriate time. Clerk, we have one delegation this evening.
Yeah, we have Mr. Clinton Harper from Laws here too.
Okay, and since I'm involved with this, I will hand the chair over to the deputy.
Okay, I'll just stay where I am.
That's
okay. All right. So, Mr. Harper, you're here for representing Laws.
That's correct.
Give us a presentation.
I'll do the warm. I'm doing the warm up.
Warm up, okay.
So good evening, Deputy Mayor and Council. You heard me talk about Laws. Laws is the Lambton area water supply system. It is comprised of the municipalities of St. Clair Township, City of Sarnia, the Village of Point Edward, our town of Plympton-Wyoming, town of Warwick, and the municipality of Lambton Shores. In a moment, I'm going to introduce to you Mr. Clinton Harper, who is the General Manager of Laws. Normally, our chair, Bev Hand, the mayor of Point Edward, would be with us, but unfortunately, she's not able to be with us this evening. I'm not sure if Mayor Todd Case is joined with us virtually or not at this time. But we're here to speak to you tonight about forming a new way for Laws to be able to move forward and research new opportunities to apply for grants to complete the many upcoming projects that we have ahead of us. The current way that we are structured does not allow us to have that capability to do so. For example, since 2016, the town of Petrolia has been able to apply and has received $21.2 million related to their water treatment, storage, and distribution infrastructure. These are opportunities because of the way that Laws is structured, we aren't able to take advantage of. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Harper to walk you through the slide presentation.
Thank you, Marcus. So I'm here today because Laws Board of Management wishes to complete the public and municipal consultation necessary to successfully restructure or reorganize itself as a municipal service corporation under the Municipal Act. We'll talk about the why, the what, how, and when, and the next step. So to begin, the why. So why do we want to reorganize Laws as a municipal service corporation under the Municipal Act? The answer is a simple answer, and it's an important question. So Laws is not currently established under the Municipal Act, and therefore, from the perspective of the province, Laws does not exist. It's important that Laws is permitted to exist for a few different reasons. Consider that the systems maintained by Laws are essentially the backbone of the local distribution networks. Arguably, Laws facilities and pipelines are more important to the supply of potable water locally. Yeah, as a legal entity, Laws is indistinguishable from our municipalities, or our municipality, or any of its members. I think we can at least agree that Laws facilities are at least as important as the assets that make up the local distribution network. Fortunately, due to Laws' current organizational structure, outside of the Municipal Act, Laws projects are not considered or considered secondary or invalid by the province of Ontario. So again, why is provincial recognition important? So over the next 20 years, Laws is looking at 145 million in capital work needed to maintain our current level of service and to achieve our growth-related targets. So due to the organizational structure, outside of the municipal act, programs developed by the province to assist with capital work are not directly available to Laws. This will become a major barrier for Laws and ultimately its members as we move into the future. So of the various organizational vehicles available under the Municipal Act, the Municipal Service Corporation provides Laws with the greatest level of authority possible to act in the best interest of the overall system. The future Municipal Service Corporation will be designed to operate similar to how Laws exist today, within a strict framework and under the guidelines established by its municipal stakeholders at time of incorporation. So Mayor Atkinson spoke of the success the town of Petrolia has had at securing provincial funding for its water infrastructure in recent years. The town of Petrolia owes their success to the fact that they directly own their water assets and have a unified voice voice of a publicly recognized municipal organization, their municipal council, to make the overall and final decision on behalf of their water system. You, as the municipal council for the town of Plympton-Wyoming, are also able to wield the same awesome municipal power in decisions that you make. Your municipality also directly has ownership over your municipal assets. By comparison, right now, Laws neither has this voice nor direct ownership over any of the assets it maintains. A board of directors established to govern a municipal service corporation of a newly formed Laws water utility if done properly, will provide the unified voice component of this equation and allow Laws to engage directly with the province of Ontario on matters of Laws. The second part of the equation is related to asset ownership. So asset ownership is an extremely important factor when being considered for provincial programs. In 2023, Laws is stating 93 million in tangible capital assets. These are legally your municipality's assets under the current organizational structure. Because of this ownership, that Laws members are put in a position where they must call the shots in terms of provincial programs and weigh Laws' projects against their local needs. In order for the reorganization of Laws to be successful, it will require the transfer of ownership of the assets that make up Laws today from the benefiting municipalities to the newly formed corporation. So the next question is the when. So the decision to reorganize is ultimately a decision of municipal council. In 2024, the Laws Joint Board of Management plans to complete the public engagement needed to build the new corporation's foundational documents. And at a future date, once the work is complete, the transition may be made only at the consensus of Laws members. Your inputs are needed. So in addition to this information session, one public media release and public workshop, along with any additional requirements placed upon Laws by its members. This is all being planned by the end of this year. Feedback we receive, we use to develop the new corporation's foundational documents. Draft versions of these documents are planned to be available to all members by early 2025. So at this point, Laws is requesting that you consider the following motion of support for this process. Your support and input are needed if this effort is going to be successful. And I'm here to answer any questions, and feel free to contact me after this presentation at your discretion. And finally, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Harper? Mr. Vitti?
Thank you. How would the town retain its interest? Like if we were giving in $93 million worth of infrastructure?
So through the chair, it would be in the form of a stakeholders agreement. That would establish the interest with the new corporation, and those legal instruments would be established. So technically, you would retain ownership of the Laws. It would be as an independent organization at the
Shares in it.
absolutely. Yeah.
Mr. Wolford?
So the provincial government, will they buy into this change? major change, or does it really mean much to them other than grants?
So through the chair, as indicated right now, laws exist outside the municipal act. So for example, applying for a delegation AMO, I had to do so through your municipality, basically. We don't have a direct voice with them. And that all comes down to asset ownership. We don't own any assets. We don't qualify for any kind of grant opportunities or even consideration or infrastructure Ontario based on our current setup. So to be able to establish ourselves under the municipal act would basically allow us direct access to the province ourselves. And any grant like we could work directly with them to assist them in helping them build future grant applications that are more accessible for municipal service corporations. Municipal service corporations they're not new, but there's not a lot of them in Ontario. And so as part of that process, we'll be working with them on that.
So has this been kind of dealt with through the MPP's office at all, or discussed, or?
So through the chair, this is a solution that laws has been provided. Basically, we don't meet the requirements that they have for grant opportunities and for any kind of programs that were under Infrastructure Ontario. They set up these municipal organization or vehicles in the municipal act, and they basically said, fix yourself, right? That's and that's kind of our situation right now. So we're moving towards that. So they're fully aware that we're moving towards that. Right now, when I meet with Infrastructure Ontario, it's more about trying to establish laws or, remind them that we're here in our current organizational structure in order to help them open up their application processes as we work towards this situation in the background.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any, Ms. Rodriguez?
So I guess what I'm looking at is what's the downside to the municipality of just taking back their assets and dealing with their own water resources or infrastructure? Like Petrolia does, for example.
So through the chair, the downside for the local municipalities would be the loss of their portion of $93 million in tangible capital assets that they could potentially borrow against. That could be a potential downside. And maybe that's it, right? Like, it's actually like from a liability and a entity, like from a liability standpoint, you're actually isolating yourselves from laws, right? Right now, for instance, if there was an issue on lost property, laws doesn't technically exist. It's not lost property, it's municipal property. That would be lost property after this transition. So there would be a level of installation with respect to liability when it came to laws infrastructure. That said, at the end of the day, any failure of a water system by law falls back to the stakeholders at the end of the day. So you wouldn't be completely isolated from all water related liability, but from a property standpoint, it would be isolated.
Mr. Sabansky?
To be clear, we don't own the laws system in our municipality. We own a percentage of the laws system throughout all the municipalities. So we're integrated. So it would be virtually impossible to withdraw from that agreement as it sits today.
Anyone else?
I might have a question, please, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Clinton, for this presentation. Would you say it's because the provincial dynamics have changed that now require this procedure to happen? And if so, when did it change? Could we have done something sooner? Could you speak to that, please?
Absolutely. So through the chair, so laws was originally created in the 1970s by the province of Ontario. It was built extremely robust, a very redundant system. And then it was added on to after that. In the 80s, it was expanded to East Lambton, the East Lambton pumping station, and it picked up the local municipalities in East Lambton. And in the 90s, they built a pumping station on the south end of Sarnia that's basically as big as our water treatment plant from a redundancy standpoint. So we can use that to do maintenance on our main facility. So there's a lot of infrastructure that is, basically in a situation where we need to really start planning to, like, it was always planned to be maintained, but up until a couple of years ago, 2018, laws was actually paying a significant amount of debt towards the West Lambton system. And so to be able to, basically we haven't needed to be able to access this $145 million in level of service and capital projects for the next 20 years. It wasn't on the horizon 20 years ago. And now it is becoming on the horizon. So this is a transition intended to be able to establish laws for the next 20 years, basically. That's the goal.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
No other question? Oh, go ahead, Bob.
So I know this question might be a little premature, but what would your board or your executive look like in the future versus what it looks like now? Like now you have, like our mayor as a representative, what would that look like in the future? Would that be a totally public board, executive, or any thoughts on that?
So through the chair, there's the potential for rebuilding or implementing the laws joint board managed exactly as it exists today. But there's also avenues for providing for expert, there's also appointments, there's anything that, it's basically anything that the municipalities would like to do as a result. So the goal of laws is to rebuild it as it exists with the shares and as proportionally set up as it is right now. But it's a process, right? So it could potentially be whatever the municipalities would like it to be.
I think what you just said, that we still have representatives.
Absolutely.
Municipality.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're done with you.
Okay.
Did you have any closing remarks, or is that, are we leaving that up to Mr. Atkinson?
Yeah, I'll turn it over to him. And thank you.
Sort of
Thank you.
standing behind.
Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, council, for your time and your consideration on this. We are going to all the municipalities that are involved with laws and doing the same presentation to them. We've already done Warwick, and we're number 2 on the list, so doing a little bit of a roadshow, but thank you for your consideration. It is our water supply, and water is very important. We all know that, so.
Okay, so if your presentations, I'll read the motion. Moved by Mr. Vacy, seconded by Mr. Budgeon, that the delegation suggests the following motion, that the town of Plympton, Wyoming support the undertaking of further investigation of a restructuring of the Lambton Area Water Supply System Board as a municipal service corporation, and that the general manager of laws be directed to report back findings of the restructuring investigation at a future council meeting. Everyone in favor? Carried.
Okay, thank you, Deputy. Okay, let's go to item number 5 on the agenda, business rising from previous meetings. We have 5.1. I have a motion by Councillor Van Claveren, seconded by Councillor Vacy, that the report submitted by Paul De Silva, Director of Public Works, dated May the 29th, 2024, regarding the traffic calming study in the hamlet of Kamlaki be received, and the staff be directed to implement the recommendations outlined in the report. So, council, you will recall last fall, we received not only a delegation, but a petition from the residents of the hamlet asking us to investigate traffic calming possibilities. Mr. De Silva has put together his report. Mr. De Silva, anything to add further to that before I go to council for questions?
No, through your worship. I don't really have anything to add, just that I did summarize a few recommendations at the bottom. And I do think it is important for us to develop policy, because I think that we're going to get these types of requests more often in the future. And it'd be nice to develop a framework of where these strategies are warranted.
All right, council, I'll go to the questions to my right. Councillor Bojan, anything from you?
Thank you. I just have one question. I think it's good. I think it's great to have this data because it shows us what the speeds are, the average speeds are. And it's clearly people gearing up or gearing down as they come in. That's good to know. So I support the buffer speed. We'll see if it helps. I know there's some other creative solutions in there with curb extensions and stuff, but I'm assuming a lot of our roads with farm equipment and stuff, I mean, a lot of those solutions just aren't applicable to us, which is good because it's not being recommended. My one question though is I know when this petition was signed, there was it was the hamlet where it started and it kind of became more broad in terms of Kamlaki in general. And there were some people concerned about traffic in front of the public school and along Fleming now that we have that walkway. So I'm just wondering, is that still an area that's going to be looked at, or is that just something that we would lump into a policy once we have it? Just to make sure that those concerns are still on the radar.
Through your worship, I'm glad you brought that up. I was gonna bring it up after as well. So I do recall some additional studies being requested. So we did have our traffic counters out in front of the school. And we just picked those up last Friday, so I didn't have time to put them in this report, but I did write down that the 85th percentile speed there is about 59 kilometers an hour in front of the school, and it's about 1,200 cars a day. So people, generally speaking, seem to be compliant in that area with the posted speed limits.
Thank you. Good to know.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Vacy,
No, I have no questions. Good report.
Councillor Rodriguez.
Thank you. No, I have no questions. I know Blue Point and Crest will be calling for speed bumps. Because they've also been put in a lot of calls and stuff about speeds in that neighborhood as well, so.
But nothing on this report.
No,
Good.
it's fine.
Okay, Councillor Wolvett.
I would comment, first of all, that it's a good study. Also looking at your pros and your cons, I would suggest that speed bumps are not the way to go. There's areas that are removing these things because of the noise that they make when you're going over them. Certainly traffic islands going out in the middle of the road. Snow plows love them. They like to catch them and kind of spin the plow in the circle if they're sticking out from the curb. Certainly slowing speeds down before they get into the hamlet is a good idea, well in advance. I was looking at that today on the way over here, so you know, if you lower that speed limit a ways out, it might slow them down going through there. And this is a problem in a lot of our areas. We hear about it all the time. That's why we got that speed sign that we move around by complaints, kind of identifies, but it doesn't look like the speed was a big factor under the 60. I suppose you could lower it down to 30, but I don't know if anybody would pay attention to a 30. Although the one thing in Kamlaki that's certainly different and maybe more different in the future is, you know, what's out there with the ballparks, the community center, you know, a potential ice rink out there, what we're talking about. You know, it does make it a busy area, so slowing it down is pretty important to the people out there. So I would say that your recommendation to slow it down coming in both ends may help out, but I don't know. It's hard to slow people down, and yeah, I don't know what the answer is 100% because we run into it in almost every community. So at least we can try something.
Thank you. Councillor Van Claveren.
No additional questions for me.
No, I have no comments.
Councillor Bowden.
Sorry, one follow-up question. Is the speed measuring device ours, or we've been? Yeah. So is there a way that we can put it north and south of Egremont on Fleming as well? Just because we heard a lot of families walking down that on Fleming, especially since Fleming used to be a rural 80-kilometer road or whatever, and it's been dropped down with the subdivision. Is there a way we can measure on Fleming as well?
Yeah, through your worship, absolutely. We can measure anywhere we want. I prefer to do it in May or October because it represents the average. But we could do it at any time. Right now, we have our counters out on Queen Street, actually, because we get some complaints out there as well. So we just kind of want to get a feel of what drivers are doing there. So I would suggest if we're going to do any additional, maybe we wait until the fall.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment about Queen Street? You don't need to do any counting out there. It's got its own speed bumps along the whole way. Holy cow.
Certainly does. All the sewer sticking.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so council, you've had a chance to review this. You've seen the recommendations from Mr. De Silva. Call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, council, let's go to 6.1. A motion by Deputy Mayor McEwen, seconded by Councillor Vacy, that the minutes be adopted by council, and those confidential minutes. The closed sessions of council remain confidential and restricted from public disclosure in accordance with the exemptions provided in the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. That would be the closed regular council meeting minutes of May the 8th. Planning Council meeting minutes of May the 27th, as well as the closed planning council meeting minutes, the 27th of May. And the special short-term rental licensing and planning public meeting minutes of the 27th is May as well. Our regular council meeting minutes of May 29th. And the closed regular council meeting minutes of May the 29th as well. We've had a chance to review them. Are there any questions? Hearing none, a call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, let's go to 6.2. Committee meeting minutes. I have a motion by Councillor Van Claveren, seconded by Councillor Wolfett. The minutes be adopted by council. Those confidential minutes of the closed sessions remain confidential, restricted from public disclosure in accordance with the exemptions provided in the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. It would be the Special Events Committee meeting minutes of May the 6th. Our consideration meeting minutes of the Montgomery drain, the Perry and Harrison branch drain, May the 29th. And the consideration meeting minutes of the Maple Street drain, the consideration meetings of the Stonehouse drain of May the 29th. Council, you've had a chance to review them. We have Councillor Bojan, who is the representative of special events. Of course, our drainage Councillor Van Claveren, if there are any questions. Councillor Wolfett.
Just one question that I was approached on actually this morning on the Stonehouse drain. I thought I knew the answer, but I'd just like to verify it here tonight. Is there any roads being dug up to accommodate the Stonehouse drain upgrade or maintenance?
Since we don't have Mr. Cummings here, Mr. Sabansi, are you taking this or Mr. De Silva?
Probably hand down allow Paul to answer that actually.
I was just gonna say.
Through your worship, I don't believe any roads are being dug up at all. It's starting west of Broadway, where it enters into the open part of the channel.
Okay, thank you, sir. I just asked that so it's in the public interest that people will be watching tonight. They had a fear of their road going to be dug up, so said they didn't think so.
Anything further? Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Okay, let's go to 6.3, Councilors Report. Deputy?
All right, start with Mr. Bowden.
Environmental Services met last week. Nothing major to report on other than the report for the year tonight. From the Special Events Committee side, we did host the Picnic in the Park event at McKay on Saturday. We were a little worried because unfortunately the timing was the same as the museum's big event. But I hear both were attended well, so we're happy to see both events were a success. And then the next event, quickly shifting gears because June 29th is the Canada Day event. So finalizing logistics of that event. So if anyone is interested in learning more, please check out the event page on Facebook. We'll be uploading or adding information about the parade and the activities and all that stuff.
When does that start?
It'll be 11 to 3. And the parade will be starting at the fairgrounds and working to McKay Park this year. It'll be the reverse of last year.
Okay. Thank you. Is that it?
That's everything. Thank you.
Mr. Vacy.
Nothing to report on my committees because we've done nothing. I did attend a nice dinner at the Legion for the Masons. I got invited, by the mayor to buy tickets and then he didn't show up, but that was all right. I did do the picnic in the park and it was fantastic. So thank you to all the volunteers on that one. The grandkids had a great time. Which made Grandpa have a great time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Ms. Rodriguez.
That's all I have. Thank you.
I will leave it to the chair of fire. Speak to our meeting that we just had, and we'll be discussing a portion of it tonight. And so there were two hot topics, a truck purchase and a large bill for some water removal, so I will leave that. Sure, Counselor Wovet, and my next meeting is next Thursday. In Clare.
Okay. Anything interesting going on there or?
I don't know, because we haven't got the
Oh, you
agenda
haven't got
yet.
the agenda yet, okay, right. Mr. Van Claveren?
Hi.
Hi.
I have nothing further to report outside of all the drainage meetings that have been happening.
Okay,
Your committees I'm on are been quiet, yes.
okay. Mr. Wovet?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Couple of meetings there, the Environmental Committee, which Councillor Alex has already talked a little bit about. One thing that came out of that is the upgrading of these meters. There are still pit meters left to be replaced, I believe. I've got a figure marked down here of a couple hundred. But it's ongoing and progressing well, and I believe our people will be doing the remainder of the pit meters that are left to be done. Am I way above on 200 or am I
We're less than that now, but.
less than that now? Okay, so really that's all I have to report there. On the fire committee, we will be discussing tonight the possible purchase of a ladder fire truck. The fire committee had an in-depth discussion, but unfortunately, the chief and both district chiefs had to leave meeting to a fire, so it kind of ended abruptly, but it was actually ideal because it was an opportunity for me to move it to council, so you can make the decision, and we didn't have to. So there'll probably be an in-depth discussion on that tonight. Now you mentioned one other thing. Did you say the big bill? That's what I thought you said.
Nominal.
Pardon me?
Nominally.
Oh, on the. Okay, yeah, and the chief may be able to explain it a little bit more, but was it $35,000,
30-ish,
$38,000,
30-ish.
30 some charge for the pumping out of a basement at a fire we had here on Broadway Street. Debate going on who was to pay for it, who wasn't to pay for it, and I'll leave it there because the chief will have more accurate information to explain what that's all about to the council when they read it.
Okay, well, we'll let him follow up on that at that time.
Yes,
Sounds like an insurance.
all I
job
have
to
to
me,
do.
But anyway,
thank you.
so, and Mr. Mayor, do you have anything to report?
I do, Deputy. First of all, I was part of the special recognition ceremony at County Council for the Heritage. Two of our, a proud day for Plympton-Wyoming when Will Doctor received an award for the work that he did on the building over on Broadway Street. And as well as our museum, for the work that they're doing, and especially the display that they just put on for the past weekend. It was actually, as I said, a pretty proud day for Plympton-Wyoming. Everybody was very pleased and excited about it. I had the opportunity to be a guest speaker at the Huron Shores Optimists meeting this month. And I had the opportunity to attend, bring greetings on behalf and congratulations on behalf of you as council and the whole municipality for a couple who celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary in Wyoming. Also too, I would remind everybody that bacon burgers are on this Saturday, and the firemen have said that if any council is available, either on prep work on Friday or on Saturday at any time, they certainly would appreciate any help that's available for them. And I'd like to thank the deputy who covered for me on the weekend when I was in Ottawa. I know you're exhausted from that.
I am, I've really been dragging around since I had the cover for you.
I do appreciate it very much, Deputy. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And what about you, Deputy? What have you been doing?
Yeah, I spent the day at the Great Day to Kick Off D-Day exhibit. First Hussars were there from Sarnia with some vehicles, and they were so proud to demonstrate what they did and everything. And then there was the World War II reenactors from London, and they had several vehicles, so it attracted lots of attention. Kamlaki was very busy. They did a lot of hard work, those guys at the museum, but there was one kid, one of the fellows asked this little 9-year-old as he was coming out, what did you learn? And he said, while the Canadians chased Hitler up to Grand Bend. See, They have.
They have that map.
They have a map that shows you what the length would be where Normandy Beach is and everything. So, and they had Sarnia and Grand Bend, you see, and so he put things together himself. And there's oh yeah, the pork chops at the Legion, they were very good, even though the mayor wasn't there, and I bought tickets from him too. Yeah. And the picnic in the park, it was there, it was exceptional, I thought, but they wouldn't let me on the Ferris wheel. So I think I was too tall, I'm not sure.
Do believe we said we'd make an exception and try to put you in there.
Well, and that's about all I've got to report. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy, and I understand that you're looking for an agent now that you're a TV celebrity.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it was on TV.
So if I may,
Anyway, I will sign autographs after the meeting, okay, tonight.
you line up for that one.
Yeah.
If I may ask, how did Decoration Day go?
Yeah, it took the words right out of my mouth. I was just gonna put my hand up. Decoration Day went very well. We moved it from the cemetery to the Legion, which was a smart move because Ella had contacted me and said it's gonna rain at 2 o'clock. Well, we moved to the Legion, guess what? Ella come back and said it's raining out there. So it was a good day, close to 40 people, up and around 40 people, which was almost 3 times or 30 more than we had the previous year. So very successful, very good event. Thank you for asking. Yeah, and thanks, Nettie, for taking over from the mayor there. That was a great speech.
Oh, yeah, was it a great
that you
speech?
gave. Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Guess the mayor knows what weekend to go away. Thank you, Ella, for helping out on that. You did. Okay, council, let's go to 7.1. I have a motion by Councilor Wolvette, seconded by Councilor Van Claveren, that the council remuneration claims for May of 2024 be approved for payment. Questions? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, let's get into the fun part, the staff report. 8.1, I have a motion by Councilor Rodriguez, seconded by Councilor Vacy, that the report by Elizabeth Cummings, Drainage and Engineering Coordinator, dated June the 3rd, 2024, regarding the petition for drainage works by owners of 4386 Egremont Road be received. The council accepts the petition as filed on June the 3rd, 2024, and that council appoints R. Dobbin Engineering Incorporated to make an examination of the area requiring drainage and prepare a report on the matter in conjunction with the petition received for lot 15 concession 8. Are there any questions on that? Although Ms. Cummings is not here, I know Mr. De Silva would be more than willing to answer anything. Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Let's go to 8.2. A motion by Councilor Van Claveren, seconded by Deputy Mayor McEwen, that the report by Norma Roddick Priest, Treasurer, dated June the 4th, 2024, regarding the first quarter 2024 budget update be received and filed. First of all, I want to thank our treasurer as well as your department, Ms. Roddick Priest, for putting this together. We've asked for this for a while, and as we move forward, it gives council definitely an idea of our expenditures. Anything to add to your report at this time before I go to questions? Okay. To my left, any questions? Am I right? Councilor Rodriguez?
Thank you. On page 3, under election expenses and candidate refund, there was an expense noted in there. I just wasn't sure why. Like, are you prepping for the next election?
Yeah, so we put out or put away a share every year for elections.
Okay, so,
So that must have already came due in January.
oh, gotcha. Okay,
First quarter.
gotcha. On page 4, game preserve 300. I'm not even sure what that is.
That is our membership to the Birds and Bees, the old name. Association.
Lambton.
Oh, it's some sort of association thing. Okay, sorry, I just didn't know what it was. The Highland Glen improvements, it looked like we had nothing budgeted there. But there's an expense for 1,900, so I just wasn't sure what that was for.
What page you on?
Oh, I'm sorry, page 7. And then Glen improvement.
Yeah, I'm just.
Okay.
I'm looking up it. See if I can see what that is. Some work by the roads department, labor and equipment. For January, for February. And March. So they've done some work out there.
Should likely be moved to operations.
Yeah. So just gonna make a similar comment.
It just shouldn't be in that line item.
Move to operations.
And then my last one was back on page 4. The fire budget, the general fire budget, it looked like it was as of March 31st of this is what the numbers are reflecting, I believe. It was just under half of its yearly budget at that point. Is that make sense? Maybe there's a lot of things that come out near the beginning.
So there'll be a lot of insurance in there,
Right.
which makes it
Okay,
a tad high.
right, because it looks like it's like, holy cow, only March. Okay. And that would be it.
No other questions? Call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. The council, let's go to 8.3. We have a motion by Councillor Rodriguez, seconded by Councillor Van Claveren, that the report prepared by Nicole Campbell, Executive Assistant Corporate Services, dated June 6, 2024, regarding a media relations policy for the town of Plympton-Wyoming be received, and the council adopt policy number 204-73, media relations policy. Any questions on that? Councillor Wolvett?
Mr. Mayor, who was involved in this, this agreement? Like, is it just, management execs?
So through the chair, if I may. So the media relations policy was developed after the mayor and I had discussed whether or not there was any policies in regards to who and how communications with the media occur. We found that we did not have any formal documentation in that regard. So staff took it upon themselves to develop the policy that affects both council and staff. And we utilized existing policies from other municipalities as well as our few of our digital assets to develop the policy that you see before you.
So are you suggesting that councillors not talk to the news media?
I believe it notes in there that councilors may carry out interviews and stuff like that, but they're providing their opinion, formal opinions on the behalf of the on the behalf of council arise through the chair. It's the typical manner of which public statements are made, or through the CEO if it's an operational issue.
So on the signature part at the bottom where you expect the form to be signed, is that yourself signing that form?
Staff signed that form, but because it also affects council, it would be suggested that council acknowledge that they've received it if they're endorsing it tonight.
So, okay, let's take a look at this. Management that signed the form here somewhere. But anyways. This is not a form that I would be willing to sign. Counselor, I believe I have the right to speak to constituents. I believe I have the right to speak to news media. I think this is, I understand what it's saying. You gotta be positive. You're here to support the town and everything else, but this is kind of a touchy little situation because it's something that affects any counselor themselves, whatever committees they're on or whatever thing they're representing in council, are quite often asked to talk to the media pretty quickly before they're even out of the room. One little slip of the tongue would be taken as a negative by other counselors or anybody else. So it kind of, I'm not going to say a gag order, but it kind of the way I feel about it. So I just don't think I'd be comfortable signing that to say, you know, everything I say, I got to be so careful of saying. So I don't know. I just didn't have a rosy feeling about it. And that's why I want to ask who's signing this. Because at first I thought it was like yourself, Mr. CIO, that would sign it saying, you know, under my jurisdiction here, they should talk to me before this is released. But I mean, I understand news releases. I understand all that being done properly, but it's an uncomfortable feeling here. And you're like we're at that you're being kind of asked to sign something to say, I'm not going to make any comments about the municipality that I represent. It's just uncomfortable. That's kind of the way I feel about it. At the end of the world, but it's signing something like that don't make me comfortable. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. I'm going to my left, Councillor Rodriguez, then Councillor Bojan.
Thank you. So I am too confused on this document. I understand the spirit of it and the need to have some sort of structured format when doing media releases and things like that, on issues regarding the town and how they should be addressed, for sure. Makes total sense. But we as council are separate than staff. So we have different policies we already have to follow and regulations as council, and that we would have signed to when we were inaugurating stuff and had our training on this, our code of conduct and things like that, whereas staff have their own policies, and this to me is very much a staff policy in the sense that when you're signing line, I mean, to me, it doesn't look like all the staff should sign that. It looks like the CAO should sign it because it says, I agree to adhere to this policy, ensure that the employees working under my direction adhere to this policy. And I understand if I violate that policy, I may face disciplinary action up to and including termination of employment. So that reads like a staff or yourself that would sign that document. And then you can't fire council. So they can't sign it.
Obviously that.
So it's just very confusing in that sense.
Thank you. Councillor Bojan.
Thank you. Yeah, because in that policy, I didn't see anywhere in there, just building off council rule, that I didn't see anything in there that specifies that council members can express our personal opinions. So I think this is a great policy. In fact, I think this should be something that's more general for staff. I think I'm shocked that we didn't have one already, because these policies usually identify the designates for speaking to the media, which is usually the CAO when they designate. So I think it's incredibly important to have something like this for staff, without a doubt. I would agree that an elected official is a little bit different, just echoing what's already been said here. I think we could still have a if council wanted something in place. I mean, we have code of conducts that we adhere to already. And there's already disciplinary processes through the integrity commissioner and all that stuff, where if we're being bad, there's things in place that can be triggered. If there's additional policies on top of that, I think it has to be specific for council and specific for staff. It can't be the same policy. And that's when it gets confusing, because we're just so much different as elected officials than the hired staff. If we had one as a counselor, I think we'd have to make it clear that we can make comments to the media. It's just we represent the views of ourselves, not council. It'd have to be specifying that an elected member is making a statement. If it's contrary to a council decision, that we cannot imply that we're speaking on behalf of council. There's things we can have as a council, but it has to be a separate policy, in my opinion. But I'm in support of having something for staff, for sure. Just to delineate who can talk to the media and who can't, just to keep messaging consistent and accurate.
Councilor Vacy?
Yeah, my communications man here took most of it. Even if there was something in there stating that if we do talk to media, we do it on our own accord. We're responsible for what we say, and includes getting sued and everything else. That we're not the official town word. Say you're doing it on your own. It's your opinion, and
So all valid comments, maybe the better place. We're trying to find a policy that works for both. It's obvious at this point. That's not gonna work. So. What I would recommend, because instead of defeating it or deferring it, you can still support it, but add in one segment that media relations policy for staff. And then you can endorse the motion as amended. And then we've heard that you're willing to consider something around media relations, but possibly in the council code of conduct is the better location for it. And when that document is ready to be updated, that we look to add media relations segments into that.
Council comfortable with that? Councilor Wolbett, then Councilor.
Another question. So this particular document here, will you be expecting all your employees to sign it and have a witness?
Staff have reviewed it, had a staff meeting last week.
Yeah.
And are made aware of their obligations in regards to media statements.
So they'd be expected to sign this, and
Staff have reviewed and signed the policy as is, as administrative policies are responsibility.
firefighters, employees, will they all be expected to?
We did not orientate the firefighters onto this policy. I think that's a discussion I'd rather take offline with my senior management team.
Bob?
Yeah.
Councilor Rodriguez, then Councilor Vacy.
Yes, I just go back to the signing line. You're making it a staff policy, not a council policy. But it doesn't specify that a staff member needs to sign. That's, I guess, my only.
If it's a formal administrative policy, it's alluded to. And we reviewed it in a staff meeting together. Staff were informed that this policy does affect them. They were asked to review the policy, provide input on it, provide comments, and if they were comfortable, to sign it. Which has occurred.
Councilor Vacy?
yeah, I was just going off of Councilor Bob's. I remember signing one of these on the fire department years ago. The fire chief was the main use and all that kind of stuff that. Well, I'm surprised.
I can confirm
Maybe it's gone. That's
10 years a year, a lot of policies have not been carried on, have not either been misplaced or forgotten about. And as we're stabilizing, one thing that Nicole and I will be working towards is digging up all those policies, making sure that they've been updated and bringing them forward for administratively, and if they involve council as a whole, making sure that council is gets the opportunity to review and endorse them as necessary.
So we have an amended motion here, sorry.
For clarity, did we want the motion amended, but a separate policy that's council specific be brought back at a future date?
I think the direction is that when we reviewed the council code of conduct, thank you, that we look at to add media relations into that.
And I think that should be fine.
So the mover is Councilor Rodriguez, second by Councilor Van Claveren. I'll just reread it. That the report prepared by Nicole Kimball, Executive Assistant Corporate Services, dated June 6, 2024, regarding a media relations policy for the staff town of Plympton, Wyoming. Be received and the council adopt policy 2024-73 media relations policy. Staff of the town of Plympton, Wyoming has been added to that. Are you okay with that, Councilor? Okay, everybody's clear on that? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, Ms. Campbell, for your work on that. Okay, let's go to 8.4. Moved by Counselor Van Claveren, seconded by Counselor Wolbert, that the report by Christine Houston, Deputy Treasurer and Tax Collector, and Jessica Wilson, Executive Assistant, Public Works Department, dated June the 6th, 2024, regarding the updated municipal drain assessment billing, payment and debenture policy be received, and the attached municipal drain assessment billing, payment and debenture policy be approved by council. And I believe back in December, we asked staff to bring forth an updated assessment collection policy at that time. And this is what we have in front of us now. Ms. Houston or Ms. Wilson, anything to add to your reports?
Not at this time. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer.
All right, I'm going to begin on my right. Questions? My left. Deputy Mayor?
Well, I thought that it was quite a jump for go up to 5,000.
We were only going from increasing it from $1,000 to $1,500. Yeah,
I thought I read somewhere where you're increasing it to 5,000.
that was our initial recommendation, and
All right.
during the discussion, we decided to
Yeah, thank you.
increase that.
Okay.
Anything else on my left? All right, all those in favor? Thank you, Treasury Department and Ms. Wilson for doing that. Okay, 8.5, moved by Counselor Vasey, seconded by Counselor Bolden. That the report by Paul De Silva, Director of Public Works, dated May the 28th, 2024, regarding the report line stops to facilitate future reconstruction projects in Wyoming be received, and the quote PKO Industrial Services $44,839.64 plus HST be accepted, and that bylaw 70 of 2024 be taken as having been read 3 times, finally passed, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. Memory serves me correct, but I could be wrong. We did talk about this at environmental meeting. And this was the recommendation that we brought forth to council. Mr. Silva is here. If there's any questions on that. Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, 8.6, council, or moved by Councilor Bojan, seconded by Councilor Vasey. That the report submitted by Paul De Silva, Director of Public Works, dated June the 7th, 2024, regarding the CCTV inspection, sewer flushing, and catch basin cleaning project be received in the revised tender submitted by GFL Environmental Limited in the amount of $72,833.33 plus HST be accepted, and that bylaw 71 of 2024 be taken, having been read 3 times and finally passed, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. Any questions on this? This is not new. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, council, let's go to our supplementary agenda item. Let's go to 8.7. And I have a motion by Counselor Bojan, seconded by Counselor Rodriguez, that the report by Ella Flynn, Executive Assistant Deputy Clerk, dated June the 11th, 2024, regarding the 2024 to 2026 Plympton-Wyoming cemeteries groundkeeping services received, and that bylaw 73 of 2024 be taken as having been read 3 times, finally passed, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. Ms. Flynn, anything to add to your report?
Nothing at this time, but I can answer any questions if council has them.
All right, any questions? Counselor Bojan.
Thank you. Just a quick question. I know it says we're 750 over budget because comparing the quote with the original contract, have any services been rendered under the current contract yet? Or is it a clean swap? Because no services have been rendered yet.
Ms. Flynn?
Through the chair, so the previous contractor did do the first 2 months of the contract and they have been paid for the 2 months. But it was a pretty clean, like June stop, so we only paid them for April and May. And we'll move forward with the new contractor. So I guess it might not be quite $750. It might be a little bit lower than that. But we will be ultimately over budget, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the only question I had. Thank you.
Further questions? Hearing none, call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, 8.8. A motion by Counselor Bojan, seconded by Counselor Van Claveren. Counselor Bojan, are you sure, did you want to, you're okay signing this one? That the report prepared by Eric Campbell, Director of Fire and Emergency Services, and Chris Freer, District Chief, regarding the purchase of a 2001 E1 Cyclone 2 / Superior rear mount ladder with a 1500 GPM hail pump for 1200 degrees for $52,000 plus HST be received and approved. We have both Chief Campbell and Chief Freer with us to answer any questions. To both of you, is there anything to add to your report before I open it up to council for questions?
If I may, through the chair, the total amount should actually be $40,000 plus HST, not $52,000 plus HST.
So after you left, the direction of the committee was to ensure that the motion is for the full investment, including the light bars, the labeling, as well as the dealership fees.
So if I may, through the chair, we'd like to remove the lighting package at this time. We have interest through the Firefighters Association in covering that cost.
So you're back down to $40,000.
$40,000 plus HST.
Rodriguez, question?
Sorry. I just want to clarify because 52 was 35 original purchase plus 5 for the dealer. And then plus 12 for the LED lighting and the decals, correct?
That's correct.
In our discussions, 10,000. That was approximately for, but estimated for the lights. Correct?
That is correct. That's all, Chris?
Back down to 4.
Still got the rest.
Well, we still have decaling to do, but if you wish to amend the motion to 42 plus HST, that would be cover everything. Thank you very much, Counselor, for pointing that out.
So a little back history, Counselor. I know, Counselor Wobet, did you want to share this, how it ended up at council before we?
No, go ahead.
This was on our discussion at fire the other night, but unfortunately, getting into the discussion, the financing and the particulars, both DCs and our chief had to leave for fire. Hence it got tabled to be brought here tonight. So with the support of the fire executive committee. So yes, we're here looking at this for the discussion point that we have. Chief Campbell or Chief Prairie, if you wanted to share with the rest of council, you're looking at trading or selling pumper 3, is that correct, Chief Prairie?
That's correct. Yes, pumper 3 would be, since our backup pumper right now, that would be sold probably on gov deals or through a wholesaling to recoup some of the costs of the new purchase.
How much would you get for that?
I don't know. Do you have an estimated idea what it would, what you could?
Estimating around 20,000.
Likely 20,000. The vehicle is older, but it is in good shape. Again, the chassis is probably worth more than the fire truck itself. So we're guessing around $20,000 to $30,000, and that's educated from.
Get that for that old pumper?
It's in really good shape. There's really very little wrong with it. So.
I just see, you know, places where they give them to underdeveloped countries, these things. So,
If council wishes to do that, we can.
well, I didn't say we had to do that, but I thought 20,000 was really reaching, that's all.
I mean. It's an estimate, your worship, through yourself, it is an estimate, we've no guarantee that we're going to get that. But looking at some comparables online and stuff, that's about what they're going for at that age. So we should be able to get that without a whole lot of issue considering the shape the truck is in.
Okay, I'm gonna open up to questions from council and fire executive as well. They're all here now. We're under the council umbrella. If there's anything that you have to ask either Chief Campbell or DC Freer, now is the opportunity. Councilor Vaizey?
I'll start. What extra costs are gonna be certifying the ladder each year, like over and above what we're paying now? Or see any?
If I may through the chair, yes. We're looking at about $1,800 a year in additional costs to certify the ladder. The trucks approximately cost about $2,200 a year to certify annually through their pump testing and through their MTO testing, which obviously the commercial vehicle, we have to do that. The ladder, getting rid of pump 3, that would absorb that $2,200. And then it would be looking at an additional $1,800 a year to do the ladder testing. Now, if we go with another type of ladder that's painted, the cost goes up because this is an aluminum ladder system, which is kind of owned, and E1 has the executive trademark, if you will, over it. The ladder actually requires a different type of inspection, and it's a little cheaper.
I went through the thing. For $25,000 to upgrade to a ladder. Me, I think is nuts not to take it. Is it what's gonna happen down the road? If Chris is gonna, well, if you're still here.
You never know.
The chief,
That's at the will of
if we go 7, 8
serve
years
at
from
the will
now
of council.
and the chief comes along, he's gonna want a ladder. It's gonna cost us $2 million to get one. And we have no idea really if we need one. 25 grand, we upgrade to a bigger pump, we upgrade to a bigger truck. And we get basically a free ladder thrown in on it. How much newer is it? 4 years? We gain 4 years.
We gain 4 years production wise, but 3 years model year wise.
You know, so it's, to me, it's a cheap way to take it out for a spin. We try it, and when they do request one, we'll have the data that you've only used the thing 3 times at a fire in the last 7 years. We don't need one. So I've used them. I had one in Petrolia when they first got theirs. We went through the same arguments. We didn't need it, you know, it's an extra. We just wanted it because it's a big fancy truck that goes up in the air, but it got used a lot. And I find with the newer homes, you're gonna be using it even more. You got, well, look at Main Street. I think you have pictures of it. That until you can put the whole water in the hole in the roof, you're standing there waiting for the thing to burn, so. I think it's a pretty good deal. If it was more money than this, I would not agree to it, because I hate buying other people's leftover junk. But this seems like a pretty good deal to me. That's all I've got.
And we do recognize the fact that it does come from an active fire department, not that would have to maintain standards all the time, I believe, on that.
That is correct, your worship, if I may. We are going to receive the maintenance records with it. It will have a current ladder certification when we receive the truck. And it's coming from a fire department with a very reputable, and it's a department with an IAFF collective agreement, their career fire department. So it is kept to very high rigorous standards.
I think currently right now we use Petrolia as a.
Through yourself again, yeah, it's a courtesy right now. We have no formal automatic aid agreement with Petrolia. We would have to either look at this purchase or we're going to have to look down the road at an automatic aid agreement with Petrolia and likely Sarnia as well because of the distances. Petrolia has quoted us around $5,000 a year for a standby fee. Sarnia will be about the same. I spoke to Petrolia today to have that conversation. Then we'll be looking at a billing every time we utilize their vehicle. Further than that as well, that wouldn't be priority for us. So if they have another issue on the go, we may not be able to get that truck. Another part of that is that then we with the ladder truck, if we purchase it, it puts us into a true mutual aid aspect where we can actually reciprocate the same service with Petrolia. They have a ladder, we have a ladder. Sarnia has a ladder, we have a ladder. And there might be a possibility where we could work out a deal with Lambton Shores as well to offset some of the costs. So when it comes to maybe entering an automatic aid agreement with them, because at this end of Lambton Shores, they currently don't have a ladder. So those are options we can explore as well.
Any further questions on my right? Councilor Bowles, anything for you?
I guess I'll just ask for discussion's sake. Like I agree with it was a good report. I agree with the benefits of having aerial capabilities from an operational standpoint in terms of our existing level of service. But to recognize some guards that go up when you see a 2001 truck. I guess the question for discussion's sake, let's just say the rest of council agree that an aerial apparatus should be added to the fleet. And let's just say that's an agreement. A common approach would be maintaining status quo or adding an agreement and then add the truck to our 10-year forecasted capital plan. And then you put away for it and you either purchase outright at the time in the forecasted plan or you replace an existing apparatus with an aerial truck. So I guess for argument's sake, just for anyone watching who's leaning towards this option because they're unsure of the value, Councilor Vasey might have already said this, but could the chief clarify why this approach, purchasing the 2001 truck now, is more beneficial than, say, adding it to our 10-year plan and putting money away for it and perhaps getting a 2010 in 5 years, for example?
Great question, if I may, through the chair. Right now, the benefit obviously is number one, we are getting what is a good deal for the piece of equipment that we're looking at. And the master plan does suggest we either enter an automatic aid agreement with surrounding departments or purchase a truck. This gets us in the door. It gives us an opportunity to say, okay, does this work for us? If in 5 years we don't want it and it's not working for us, as Councilor Vasey said, we can go back to an automatic aid agreement. We're not handcuffed to this truck. And I want all of council to understand that this is not a handcuffing procedure. We're not looking at getting this truck to say, okay, 5 years down the road, now we want a $2 million ladder truck. That's not the purpose here. The purpose here is to get an elevated master stream where we need it, when we need it, in a timely fashion. And it just happens to have a ladder on the top of it. Right? So when we look at it from that perspective, right, we are looking at a cost savings initially from what we're getting just in 5 years alone from what it's going to cost us to enter an automatic aid agreement. Right? So right there's one bonus point. Looking at it down the road, we're working through a process right now for our life cycle management program. Myself and Mr. Freer have a lot of conversations on it. And we have something coming back probably in the August timeframe. The fire board, we're putting a life cycle management program in place. This gives us an idea. Is this going to work for us? Is this something that we can realistically operate, utilize? Is it, if we do go down the road of having to say, okay, we justify it, is it the right aerial? Is there another type of device out there that will work for us? Would, instead of getting a Quint, would a, platform work better? These are just different types of trucks, as you know. And, is a 75-foot stick enough for us? Do we need to go to a 105-foot stick? Ladder length, sorry, fire jargon. So again, like this is an opportunity for us to make those evaluations with an operational piece of equipment that we are upgrading our reserve truck. So we kind of hammer off a few birds with one stone. Is it ideal? Ideally speaking, as a chief, I'm always going to say, get us a brand new truck, but that's unrealistic. And it's not justified at this point. Does that answer your question?
Councilor Wolvett?
We had a fairly in-depth discussion at the fire committee the other night. Unfortunately, it ended kind of abruptly with the fire, but I have a lot of concerns with this. Certainly not totally against it, but number one, it goes against the grain. What we've been fighting for here in the town of Plympton-Wyoming for modern fire trucks, 23-year-old fire trucks. In fact, it was, we're buying our new trucks that we have now in our fire halls. Don't think anybody would have listened to buying a 23-year-old frontline fire truck. It just would not have happened. Matter of fact, there was a big argument took place on 18-year-old fire trucks should be replaced. And so buying a 23-year-old truck, even if it is going to be a standby truck, it's still a frontline fire truck. And I'm just gonna talk a little bit about what Alex said, what we've been trying to do in the fire department too, is have long-term planning, capital forecasts, knowing what equipment we need, what we're gonna need in the next 10 years. Now I realize that this just came up, however, we're in the middle of a budget this year. This is not in the budget. Appreciate the fact that we have reserves, but if anybody received their report here on how much money is in reserves, for fire trucks, it's not a lot. I'm not sure what the insurance liability and all that stuff is, but any fire trucks over 20 years old, certainly insurance companies frown on frontline fire trucks being over 20 years old. I don't know all the specific details around that kind of stuff. Training, you know, we had a big resistance here, the amount of training that's taken place in the fire department and trying to get our firefighters certified and caught up within the next year and a half. More training. This fire truck's gonna have to have the firefighters trained on both departments. So I'm not trying to dissuade anybody here. I'm just trying to put the facts on the table of what we're looking at here in a fire truck. Would it benefit the firemen to be able to fight the fire from certainly up above? There's no doubt, there's no question about that kind of stuff. But I don't know, thinking about, you know, you buy it and it's a 5-year trial, maybe we want one and maybe we don't want one. Well, that to me is kind of backwards. Either we're gonna need one in this community or we're not. We know the kind of houses we're building. We know the height of them. We should know that answer now, in my opinion, if we're gonna do a proper study and do proper planning. So like, I don't want to go on, but there was all kinds of questions asked. And I've certainly been approached before this meeting tonight also, questions around basically a 23-year-old fire truck. And I would like to keep the price, if you're good for the motion, keep that price at 52,000 or 53,000 or whatever it is, because this is a town purchased piece of equipment. Whatever happens after we do the purchase, if we do the purchase, put down that we're going to do the $12,000, whatever it is. And if the association chooses to step up at that time, then so be it. They can pay that and we'll. But we're not here to negotiate with the association on what they're gonna do or what they may not do. I have no confirmation of that, nor do I negotiate with the association to determine. I mean, that's the first I heard of that here tonight. So I think we have to keep the figures as per the motion. Then if that happens, great, that's good. That's really, it's that much less we have to pay. So those are just some facts that I wanted to put on the table. It's up to the council. We moved it forward to the council for this discussion. Another comment that came to me today is, if you get that truck, we want it in Kamlaki. That's where the growth is. That's where the other comment came, and make sure you build a new station to put it in. You know that. Anyways, that's where this is at. So it's up to the council to make the decision on it. You want it or you don't want it. I wouldn't count on getting $20,000 for that old truck. I have a lot of trouble. We put one up for sale here, the truck out at Reese's Corners. I think we got $1,200 for it. So we said we wouldn't do that again. We'll put it up the deals before we would do that. So There you have it from the chairman of the fire board. It's up to the council whether they want to spend the money to buy this or not.
So in response to your questions, your comments, either chief or DC Fur, do you have?
Yeah, I can make some comments that, Chair, so yeah, it is 23 years old. However, when we were down looking at it last Monday, the truck is in really excellent shape. You can tell it's been cared after. Talking to, the chief of St. Thomas, it's out and, tested every Saturday. They had it actually at a structure fire 3 days prior, the previous Friday night from when we, looked at it. So I don't think there's any concerns, or we wouldn't have any concerns, especially with them supplying all the maintenance records. Actually, they came out forthright with that, they would have them available to us if we wanted them. So the 23 years old, yeah, it's not a nice brand new ladder truck, but the $2 million ask for something that we may not know we need, is to me not realistic. I'm a taxpayer here as well, so I wouldn't be wanting to be asking for that. But getting it in the door and trialing it for a few years to see if it is an option that we can use is definitely a more appropriate avenue to take. With the frontline decision, so for the fire underwriter survey rating, or the FUS rating, we are classified as a medium city, so the middle of the road. And what that means is our frontline pumpers have to be 15 years or newer for our insurance ratings. They can be up to 20 years as a but tested every year. And after that, there's really no credit rating given. So this truck, even though we'd probably park it in the front row, it would not be considered a frontline apparatus. We would still be responding to a structure fire with our pumpers, with the ladder, the aerial device coming afterwards and being set up. It wouldn't be strictly run to a structure fire only. We would still be responding with our pumpers to initially deploy the water. The training aspect. So fortunately for our training plans, how we worked it out and how we've done it the last couple of years, the summer months, we get into truck work, or we get into using saws, ladders, equipment off the apparatus that we would use on the fire ground. So this does line up, and we could be receiving the truck to have those on our training nights to bring all the firefighters up to speed with the training on it. St. Thomas Fire has also offered to send a couple of their pump operators down, or driver engineers down to train our firefighters, or a select number of our firefighters, to have them qualified or certified on it, that then they would deliver the training to the rest of the firefighters as well. I'm not sure if that answers all the questions there, but just picked up from comments.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay, Councillor Vaizey, then Councillor Rodriguez.
Yeah, just on the light thing, it's got lights on it. Like, it's not like we need to spend, you wanna switch to LED, I'm guessing.
It's they're brighter, right? So obviously there's a little bit of a safety factor there, but currently the red and white lights are in service. IFF department uses it fine, so we'd be okay with it if the association wants to step up and say, yeah, we want to upgrade it to LEDs, that's a decision they make. But for us in a functioning role, the current lighting system would work.
In the past, the association, like on the front of the trucks, they got the big light bar, the white one. So the association put those on. We didn't spec them out in the truck. They said, hey, it'd be cool if we had 60-inch spotlight things, so they put them on. Like they say, that's the kind of upgrade that the association used to do, or can do. So they're the nice, pretty stuff that doesn't really affect the use of the truck, but it makes it easier, or it makes it nicer. The comment that we don't know if we need one, the master plan's telling us we need one. Just don't know which one or what kind of one we need. And that's where I'm kind of saying, where if we can, like you said, should we get a longer ladder on it? Do we need 75? Do we need 80? Do we need 110? We don't know. Like I say, I think it's good deal. You're parking it in Wyoming, I assume, because it won't fit.
I'll fit in Camelot.
And it's gonna fit in this hall?
It does. We've already done the measurements. We physically took tape measures with,
Stay in the hall?
except for pump three, yes. Pump three, obviously, we sold.
So.
It will, bay one will consist of the current rescue. Bay two would be where the ladder truck would go. Bay three, would then have the pumper in front of the tanker. We've actually physically moved the vehicles to make sure everything.
Pickup's gonna fit.
The pickup will fit right where it is.
Okay, no, that's all I got. Long, because we had that where a truck come in and then we spent
No, we were,
200,000.
one of the main reasons we went down was not just to look at the condition, but to see if it's even physically feasible for us to house it. If it wasn't physically feasible for us to house it, we wouldn't have even approached you folks, but the reality here is that it does present an opportunity for us to really get an idea of what we need. And the only true way to know that is to hands-on operate it.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Thank you. So, for me, it's all in the willingness here of council to realistically look at, how we're budgeting for our vehicle replacements. Everything in this report, I've stated, I've supported, and the reasons why. You've described it as there's a need for it, not as a reserve, but pretty much at fire scenes for the most part. You would use it ultimately more if you had one in your possession. And it obviously is needed long-term, and that's the way to go because of what you stated here. So I have no issues with that. But when I look at, I do have one question. Norma? When did we purchase our last fire trucks? What year was that? 21? 21, so 3 years ago,
If I may,
if I may.
we didn't purchase those. We actually haven't, the trucks that we got were in replacement for those that were damaged through an insurance deal. Yeah, the one, pump one was. So out of the two of them, the two frontline pumpers, pump one is a replacement. So pump 7 was purchased outright, if I'm correct. Yeah.
So the amount we spent, I believe it came out of, was 1.1.
675 per truck.
670.
75,000 per truck.
Okay, some of that came from insurance, as you're stating, correct? But what we took out of our reserves that we had saved up was around $1 million. Is that correct? Yes. So it's been 3 years. We were talking about 15-year lifespan on these vehicles. And this would be more primarily being used long-term. Way it needs to go. But in 3 years, we have a very small reserve, which is not realistic to what we're talking about cost replacement, even maintenance, because when you get into the more expensive vehicle, you're ultimately going to have more expenses. So this council, in my opinion, I mean, you need to be budgeting or putting in reserves over $100,000 a year for our fleets. To even get to that 15-year mark realistically. And right now, like last year, we put in 25,000. So these numbers that you were showing actually have an additional 25,000 that will be allocated into those reserves this year. So it's actually 84 per department. Yes, per department. Yes, thank you. Per hall, per station. So that's not even gonna touch $25,000 if that's what we're doing. I want this to be a realistic way to go long term. So to me, if we want this to happen, that's where you have to look at. If you have to really get serious on what we're actually, if we're gonna bring this in, it's not going away. It will become a staple. They're gonna say we don't want it. That's not gonna happen. So that's my thoughts here.
Any further comments, Councilor Wolbert?
Good question. This Ladder truck. Pump number 3, how much water does it hold within itself? How many gallons of water does that hold?
800 gallons,
How much?
800.
800. How much does this new ladder truck hold?
300 gallons.
300. So do you use number 3 as a backup? Like if you go to an area that doesn't have water, is that number 3 there to?
It doesn't, if I may, it doesn't have dumping capability. So it's not used in the fashion you're thinking of as a tanker. It would be used as a relay pumper. So if we were to run into a situation where, say we had a hydrant that's a fair distance down the road and we needed to have a relay pump situation set up, that's where it would come in. The ladder truck would have that same capability, but with a higher GPM. In other words, it would be able to deliver more water.
The question that pump, or does it go to that holding tank that you or that you set up that portable? Does it just keep boosting the pressure out?
I'm not sure I'm following. So we can supply it either way. You can supply from a hydrant or from another relay pumper directly into the pump. Then bypass the tank, it goes right into the pump suction, and then
Right out.
discharge it to the next truck down the line or to the hose lines that are on the fire system. Well, with the lower volume of water on this truck, again, it wouldn't be a first out pumper. We would still respond with the pumper, and then we would most likely feed the ladder from the pumper. So we're tied into an additional hydrant down the road for them. So and that's how we had with the Main Street or the Broadway Street fire. When Petrolia's tower came in, they were actually fed by pumper 7 that was parked down at the Baptist Church. So from a separate water supply or water source, they relayed from the hydrant 300-400 feet to Tower 13 from Petrolia, that they had the elevated stream directed in the top of the house. Pumper 1 was on a hydrant off of Brook Street, I guess that would be. So from the other end, so just not limiting the water that was available to us there. And we would do the same thing where we're not 300 gallons in a 1000 GPM monitor on the top is not going to last very long. Not very long at all. So this would need to be supplied. We would need a water source to supply that from.
Just one other question, if you don't mind. Is this end of this ladder, is that the nozzle there all the time? So it's piped up to that nozzle.
That's correct.
So this ladder could also be used for rescue if somebody had to climb up this ladder to rescue somebody.
It is rated.
Is it rated to?
So it would be, you could go off the tip and do a rescue if we need be. So areas like the Royal Lee, we would be in a much better position to do a faster response on a faster rescue. Anything, even a second story building and a second story window of a house, depending on what's going on. We could put the tip up and we could do a pretty quick rescue. The other side of it is we could also use that for ventilation. So we could put the ladder up and use that to get on the roof to ventilate. We'll do a roof ventilation, though it's rare. We don't do it very often anymore because of modern construction. Risk enabling model doesn't allow for us to do it with newer homes. And the other portion is that we have a large agricultural community here. And this would serve well with that. When we have larger structures that are fully involved in fire, for exposure protection, often farms are farm buildings are quite close together. Some of them aren't, but in the older homes or the older farms, they are. We get there, we can set up a large curtain of water with a large volume of water fairly quickly to mitigate any radiant heat that would then get any subsequent buildings on fire. So again, it would better protect our agricultural community as well. It's certainly a good asset in that regard.
Councillor Bojan?
Thank you. I just want to go back to Councilor Rodriguez too. I think it was like 2 or 3 meetings ago, I made a comment about the incoming costs related to our apparatus, because I think it's 2030 to 38. In that 8-year span, I think we have up to 6 apparatus that are due for renewal based on our current load. So whether we buy this truck or not, that's a serious problem that this council and the next council is going to have to seriously address, whether we buy this one or not. Which I think also begs the question where, listening to Councilor Vasey as well, if this shows that there's a good use case for it. Perhaps that's when we get another forecast plan, 5 to 10 year forecast capital plan where it says this truck, instead of replacing it as is, we can replace it with the ladder truck. So instead of buying a new truck to add to the fleet, it's replacing a truck that's aging out. And I think that's the importance of getting those forecasted capital plans back, whether we buy this truck or not. But we're at 2030 to 38 is gonna be a rough time, let me tell you. I mentioned that a few meetings ago.
If I may,
Chief?
through the chair. Yeah, absolutely, and I agree 100% with the counselor. The other issue too is that, and I don't want to get into it too much because of risk, and risk is more of a closed session thing, but we do have a bit of a challenge with our current fleet that it's the potential risk that we're actually facing with the community. The fleet doesn't necessarily match it. And we do have to look at that a little bit further and a little bit more extensively. And that's going to be incorporated into any life cycle management model that we do. The other part of it too is that we do have a history, and especially in Wyoming, of getting custom made trucks. We spend a lot of money on custom made trucks, and they're wonderful. Don't get me wrong. I love a custom made truck. It's always beautiful if you can sit down and spec it out, spend it, but there's a big difference in cost. I can buy I can buy a stock truck for around $750,000 to $800,000. But if you go to custom, it could be upwards of 1.2 to 1.3 million. Whereas you could buy a stock truck and have some modifications done for it with a couple hundred, with an extra $100,000. So you'd still be looking at a significantly less amount. And that all has to be forecasted into how we do our life cycle management. That's why it's taking us a bit of time to sort this out. We not only have to look at the risk that we're truly facing, we have to look at the growth that we're truly facing, the amount of homes that are being put up, where they're being put up, accessibility to what they're being put up in those locations, and how they're being built. That all has to, we have laneways here right now that, accessibility is going to be an issue when we start dealing with fire. And those are things that we're gonna have to look at. So again, I'd be very cautious. I don't want to get, like you said, it's a risk thing, and we probably should look at a closed session at some point. But right now, this is a start. This is putting us on our way to say, okay, will this work for us? If we have to go down this road, is this the right fit? And truly, that's a discussion that this would give us an answer to. The other part is when it comes to the overall cost of our apparatus, we need to do a really good analysis of what we can do. We need to forecast that in to inflation. If you ask to get that same pumper that we purchased for $675,000 now, you'd be looking at 1.2 to 1.3, if not $1.4 million, right? Like we're talking double, if not triple the cost. So we really need to look at thinking outside the box on how we're bringing our equipment into way. And there's nothing to say that we can't look at a newer used ladder truck in 5 years. It's continuing to do it this way and still it being cost efficient. This just gets our foot into the door and says, okay, is this going to work for us? And it provides a quick opportunity to have a lot of water put in a really strategic place in a shorter period of time. We look at the fire we had in, and I said it in the report, we look at the fire we had in Broadway Street in November. By the time we get toned and then go to tone another department who now has to assemble, we could already had our ladder truck there and starting to do a setup. And they're not easy. They take a couple of minutes to set up. They're not bad, but this one was only it's only a single outrigger, so it only has outriggers on the back. It's fairly quick. They could set that up. But the thing of it is, a single person probably could set that up and well trained in about 3 to 4 minutes. Whereas if I've got to grab 5 or 6 people, drag a line around the house, set up a monitor, and then again, further delay. And it's a lot more manpower intensive. So if that same fire had have happened at 2 o'clock, happened at 2:30 in the morning, if that had happened at 2:30 that Monday afternoon, we'd had a very different response model. And I'm not sure we would have been as successful as we were with this apparatus coming with our team as a second due or third due engine. It allows for a quicker in employment for that role, that if we have to tone out it from an additional department. And again, we also gotta keep in mind that, and I'm not trying to be the doomsday guy here, but, Petrolia could be dealing with their own mess, and it may not be available. You know, Sarnia, if they have a couple ladders right now, if one goes out of service, they're not gonna take that ladder out of the city to service us. Right? They have their own taxpayers, so just something to keep in mind.
Thank you, Chief. Councilor Rodriguez.
Sorry, I just, when I was giving, the numbers of how we have to really think seriously about increasing, I mean, 100,000 a year is, you're looking at these costs, that's only getting you up to 1.6 million in 15 years, potentially. And the other point is, this is for one area. It's going into Wyoming. It'll be utilized as a reserve or backup in those other areas where it can't get to in that adequate primary response time. But eventually, Kamlaki, where you've pointed out abundantly, is the larger need for this, will ultimately need one as well. So then you also have to consider that, because once you go here, you really have to look at this, these reserves. We're nowhere near where we need to be to go down this road, but if you want to go down this road, that's where you really have to pick up that. And you're talking 3% of your taxes, right?
Okay, Councilor Van Claveren.
Just a quick couple of words, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Councilor Bojan that the purchase of this truck really doesn't affect it one way or another on how our future budgets reflect on fire equipment. I think that's a whole separate conversation and discussion. But I appreciate you mentioned that nonetheless. I do also know that many of us buy equipment based on its condition rather than its age. And, I think counselors get better with age too.
Thank you.
Yeah. So 40,000 is what you get for 40,000. So it seems like the perfect storm for the taxpayer. They want better fire protection. And then this honey of a deal comes along and also kind of turns their nose at it. So I would recommend that we take this opportunity. I'm not sure if I'm on the same page of what that tanker's worth, but nonetheless, I don't even think that's a make or break it part of the deal either. So it makes a lot of sense. And like Councilor Rodriguez said, I think we'd use it more than you would even dream. You'd think so. And even then, it's like any kind of insurance. It's better to look at it than look for it. If you need a truck in a hurry and it's not available, then that could be a problem. So I recommend that we support this. Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Deputy, anything from you?
No, I've been listening and listening. And I thought at first, it only takes 11 minutes for Petrolia to come over here, but there's a situation, those 11 minutes might be crucial. That's where I started from, and then I was listening to all the because I wasn't aware, do we really need a ladder truck around here? But I'm listening to all these stories, and obviously we get some benefit from it for sure. And I don't think I have any other questions because everybody's discussed everything already.
And I have one question. Are we looking at 52,000 or are we looking at 42,000? Because the original motion says $52,000. And although you have said that there's a possibility, excuse me, that the association may chip in, we don't know that for sure.
Need it for sure.
You still have to go on the premise that.
So you want to talk to?
Give me 2 seconds, sorry.
There's a pretty high chance that the association would be.
I would say a very high chance that the association will be on board with helping out.
Putting some money towards the truck, so there's.
Very, very
Fortunate.
extremely high chance.
So-
Say hi to Brian.
Yeah. I don't know. Either way.
So we're looking at 42,000? We're looking at 52. If we look at 52 and the association comes forth, then we're not. All right?
So I think your motion should say 52,000, because that is gonna be the expense. And then the fire association will give us a revenue as a donation towards that. But the motions should say 52,000.
Right, and that's what the original motion was.
Always budgeting for worst case expense. That is your worst case expense. You
don't
want
need
to cover that expense.
No, it's not, because we don't need the lights. It's got lights. If they want to upgrade the lights later. Oh,
If you're taking, yeah, if you're taking the lights off and not doing lights, I don't.
I mean,
Why don't we leave the?
it appears, if I may, that the likelihood of us getting the lights in either direction is probably fairly high. So if this is the situation, I would say it's a pretty safe bet for council to change that motion to the 42. And take full advantage of what the association has presented us, which is likely more than what is going to be required.
But it's not the price of the truck.
No.
That's where I'm.
The price of the truck is 35 without HST. The price of the dealership,
40 with.
40 without HST.
the price of the dealership cost is 5, which brings it up to the 40.
That's correct.
The price that you proposed for Xers is approximately $10,000 for lighting and approximately $2,000 for rebranding. So what we're hearing is that the lights that are currently on it meet standards. They may not meet the aesthetic standards or the modern standards, but they meet standards, so they're not required. So if we approve the motion with 42,000, which will be 35 for the truck, 5 for the dealership fee, 2 for rebranding, it would cover the anticipated expenses without HST at this time.
Getting lights.
Do they get some sort of donation or receipt when they?
The association. It's they're you guys, are you a nonprofit? No,
It's through the fundraising that being purchased this weekend. Getting support from the community, basically.
Yeah.
So it's just like you buy your truck and you customize it whatever way you want.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have a motion that's 42,000. Need an auctioneer to do
To say it, John.
All right, so I have a motion by Councillor Bojan, seconded by Councillor Van Claveren, that the report prepared by Eric Campbell, Director of Fire and Emergency Services, and Chris Freer, District Chief, regarding the purchase of a 2001 E1 Cyclone 2 Superior remount ladder with a 1500 GPM hail pump, 1200 degrees, for $42,000 plus HST be received and approved. Mover and the seconder okay with that motion? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, council, thank you very much. Let's go back to item 9. Clerk, anything new added to that since the agenda was printed? Okay, correspondence 10.1. Moved by Councillor Rodriguez, seconded by Councillor Vacy. Correspondence suggests the following motion. Correspondence submitted by the Plympton-Wyoming Special Events Committee be received. Plympton-Wyoming Special Events Committee's Canada Day celebration event be declared as a municipal significant event in accordance with the regulations for a special occasion permit by the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, 11.1 correspondence and the recommended reading routine approval information moved by Councillor Rodriguez, seconded by Councillor Bojan. That the correspondence items A to K relating to recommended reading and routine approval and information items be noted as received by the Plympton-Wyoming Council and filed accordingly. Council, you've had a chance to review those items from A to K. Is there anything anybody would like to pull out or draw attention to, beginning on my left? Deputy?
No, I have none.
Councillor Van Claveren?
Me, sir, thank you.
Councillor Wolvet?
No, sir.
Councillor Rodriguez?
No, sir.
Councillor Basie?
Yeah, I was looking at K for the resume the assessment roles that have been dragging since COVID, which was a lifetime ago now. What are we behind now? 4 years, 5 years?
Deputy Treasurer?
So right now, all the properties in Ontario are valued at, as if they were at January 1st, 2016.
Exactly.
So there was supposed to be a reassessment done in 2020, and the assessment values would phase in over 4 years from 2020 to 2024, using that updated assessed value as of January 1st, 2020, but that 2020 assessment was not done because of COVID. So right now, when I pull up an assessed value, I have to tell people, pretend like you're standing in front of your house on January 1st, 2016, and that's what your assessed value is right now.
You received any indication from the province through impact when they're gonna make any changes, Treasurer?
So at the conference, we did learn a little bit, but it's still a guess. So there is some talk of an earlier election, and then that would therefore that would force the update of impact for 2026. But that's,
There's only chatter at the conference?
it was in a session.
Okay.
And it is chatter. But there's some promise.
So Councillor Vaizey, did you want to poll in support or just draw it to our attention?
I think we should support it. We're working on our tax base is 8 years old. But yet inflation has kicked the crap out of everything else we've done, so it's gonna hurt. Keep putting it off doesn't stop the hurt when everybody's increase goes up. So I think we should support it.
So Vaizey, Councillor Wolvet and then Councillor Rodriguez.
We've had this discussion before, but personally, I don't think we should support it. I think it's up to the province. If they want to reinstate impact. We have the control, we can control our taxes right now without that assessment. We're the experts over there, but we have the control over our own property taxes, whether we have impact or we don't. So why would we invite the government to come down and make a 5-year adjustment so everybody here can pay huge property taxes based on the province? I just think we should not get involved with the province. Let them do what they're gonna do. They're gonna have to figure this out because, as I said before, they can't come down here and up everybody's assessment by $200,000 or $300,000. You know what that would do to the community?
What's your house worth now?
Pardon me?
What's your house worth?
Probably. Well, I don't know to say because there's somebody in here interested in it. I don't want to give them a incentive.
I don't have to be.
Your address again?
Yeah, that's my, but anyways, that's my thoughts. Let's let the provincial government do what the provincial government,
So, okay, Councillor Vaizey has asked for it to be polled and given support, so we will vote on that accordingly. Councillor Rodriguez, then Councillor Bojan.
Thank you. I just wanted to add in that, it was on the news and I believe we learned about it as well in August that, the provincial government currently is revamping the system and they're doing stakeholder meetings. That is why it is sitting where it's at, because they're revamping the whole system. So I just wanted to add that in there, that putting in this letter of support really isn't gonna change anything because they're already in the works to do different stuff.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
Councillor Bojan?
Hey, I just want to clarify something that Councilor Wolvet said, because when we ran in the last election, impact was a big discussion because everyone was freaking out that impact's gonna come along, change their assessment, and then everyone's be paying thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars more on their house. And that's a false statement because it's up to council. So if impact comes and says your house is worth $15 million, doesn't matter what impact says it's worth, it's up to us as a council to then adjust our tax rate to get the money we need. So I just want to make it crystal clear that if MPAC does re-implement this, it does not mean every single person in this township is gonna be paying all this extra money. Will some people paying more? Yeah, but it's up to council to adjust our tax rate to get the money we need. I just want to make that clear because we heard that a lot during the election, and that's not how it's gonna work. It's up to council to prevent that from happening, not MPAC. I just wanted to clear that up.
And in response, that's exactly what I said. We have the power to control our property taxes, not impact.
But you said,
Assessment,
you said if MPAC happens, then everyone's taxes are gonna go skyrocket.
they could be. Because a lot of municipalities use that assessment to do their taxes. That's all I said. I also said that we have the power to control our own property taxes regardless.
Okay, so let's go back to first motion by Councillor Rodriguez and Councillor Bojan that the correspondence A to K relating to recommended reading and routine approval and information items be noted as received for the PW Council, filed accordingly, save and accept for item K. All those in favor? Carried. Then we have a motion by Councillor Vacy, and I'm looking for a seconder for this one to get it on the floor. On item K, Van Claveren. Thank you, John. Councillor. That council support correspondence K from the municipality of Caladar regarding a call to resume the assessment cycle. All those in favor? Motion is defeated. Okay, any new business? Item 12, Councillor Bojan,
Nothing for me, thank you.
Savasi,
I think I have anything tonight.
Councillor Rodriguez. No. Mayor, Councillor Van Claveren.
Something real quick.
Yes.
So, I have had a couple of people approach me. First two since. Oh, trucks bypassing the scales, coming down Churchill. Then coming through the village. 402 and up to their destination. And the concern is. Big trucks and the new lights, what's that gonna do? To congestion? I'm not even sure if I'm asking a question, but. It's just a comment I heard a couple of times and.
Maybe they'll.
Oh, you look like you
They'll
might.
avoid it. Yeah, they might be avoiding Plympton-Wyoming if there's lights there. Go ahead, Mr. De Silva.
Yeah, I apologize. I wasn't aware that that was a concern at all. But we can certainly discuss that with the county, considering they control Mandamin and Broadway Street. And hopefully come back and alleviate some of those concerns.
In addition, we could also contact the MTO with their actual scale runners. So if the scales are activated and they're bypassing purposely, that is an offense under Prevention of Highway Traffic Act. And the MTO can address that issue through their enforcement.
Thanks, guys. That's it, maybe.
Councillor Wobet.
No, chief.
If I may, the MTO is engaged in a pretty aggressive campaign right now to stop a lot of that. There's no very rarely that I come into work that I don't see one of them along one of those corridors. And they've always got a truck pulled over. So I do think that there's aggressive enforcement out there. Is it enough? That I can't speak of.
Councillor Rodriguez.
I just wanted to add to that was very much a big problem on Shore Road. Before I saw them banned off of Lake Shore Road, because it was a huge problem. They were always dodging the weigh scales. All kinds of reasons, but yeah.
So could I ask how do you get a band?
Put a roundabout in. Do they go through a roundabout?
Well, they still go through them for local.
Mr. Urbanski.
So council can pass or bylaws that restrict roads from heavy traffic. Enforcement becomes a challenge though without a set fine system and the ability to pull over transport trucks.
Well, I would have to say it worked very well on Lake Shore Road compared to what it used to be. It's so much, I mean, you'd be terrified to stop to turn left because they're so right on you, you know, But I think it worked very well, getting them.
My understanding that was done in partnership with the MTO and the County of Lambton.
Yeah, because
So
it's
again,
got,
it doesn't work unless there's heavy enforcement
oh,
of the restrictions.
Anything else, Councilor Van Cloud?
That's it for me, sir. Thank you.
Dr. Wolvet? All right, let's go. We have clerk, we have nothing under closed this evening.
Your worship,
Yes.
I have two things under new business, if you don't mind.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Savansky. I couldn't see you. You were too close.
So, two bits of information for council tonight. We were informed, late last week that, the Ontario Land Tribunal has received notice that the appeals of OPA 51 and 54 have been withdrawn. They've confirmed to us that they've been withdrawn through the system. Therefore, our official plan is fully enforced as of today. Therefore, surplus farm dwellings are now, legal and we can receive applications on that matter. We will be issuing a, information pamphlet for surplus farm dwellings tomorrow. We are planning to host a public open house on the matter in early September to ensure that farmers have every opportunity to understand the policies and how they can apply for a surplus farm dwelling. Planning is quite backlogged with a lot of current applications, working the way through a lot of problematic applications that were left to them from previous years. So they are quite heavily backlogged. We are looking at alternatives for outside help to keep things moving forward. So surplus farm dwellings will be a slow process to come to council and to the committee of adjustment, but we are cognizant of those individuals who have been waiting for multiple years and we'll do our best to accommodate. So I did not want to wait to the planning meeting to give you that update as it just occurred. Also, I found out that the Mine Main Street grant awardees was awarded on Saturday. They did not send us an email. I found this out by Googling. And unfortunately, the town of Plympton-Wyoming was not successful. It appears that a good 70% of them were larger urban centers, with the remaining 30% being smaller urban centers.
It's too bad.
that should be reversed.
How do we become a city?
100,000 plus people.
Well, thank you for the work you did on that, Mr. Savansky and your team. We appreciate that, unfortunately. Didn't get it. Okay, I go to item 14. Moved by Councilor Wolvet, seconded by Councilor Van Claveren, that bylaw 72 of 2024 being a bylaw to confirm all resolutions of the council meeting held June the 12th, 2024 be taken as read 3 times. Finally passed, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. All those in favor? And item number 15, I have a motion by Councilor Basie, seconded by Councilor Bojan, that the regular council meeting be adjourned until the next regular council meeting to be held on June the 26th, 2024, commencing at 5 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. This meeting